Okay, so now I'm going to make a series of videos on revival methods for stress-related issues and summer or heat-related issues. In particular, I'm looking at situations that somebody protesting or whatever, might experience. Previously, I made a two-part video on methods for reviving unconscious hanging victims, and I showed some of the acupoints that I'm going to be using here in that video, and so you might want to use it, and just so you'll understand how these things work and what these points are. Then I think it would benefit you to watch that other video. I also previously did a video on revival techniques for drowning victims. So this one I think is going to end up in 3 parts, and after you watch it, like I said, then you might want to watch a 2-part video on methods for reviving unconscious hanging victims. The previous video that I made for reviving hanging victims included materials that I gathered from different sources. Everything except for one method on this video is going to come from the book by Tom Biggio shown below, A Pearl from the Dragon's Neck, and also the online course that I took, which he based on this book. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple of real simple techniques to get rid of a nosebleed. Now generally, not always, but generally, if you're bleeding from this nostril, then you're going to want to use this hand, the opposite side. You can do this to yourself or to another person. I put the dots on myself, so I'll use me. What you're going to do is you're going to be using these, hopefully you can see these points right here and right here. Now everybody's palm lines are different. With me, this one ends up this at the end of this line. If you feel the bone right here, you can feel it just underneath the large part of that bone, just below the joint. And same thing here also, just below the big part of that bone. And you don't have to be perfect, and if you have a long string, you can hit a wider area, then you don't have to worry at all. But you're going to want to wrap a string tightly around your hand with your hand open, okay, however many times, it doesn't matter, and you'll get it fairly tight here. But then what you're going to do is you're going to make a tight fist, and then you'll feel this is going to make it much more tight, and just hold this here for a minute or so, or until the bleeding stops. And then again, usually if you're bleeding on this side, put on the opposite hand, and that'll generally stop it. Now this next technique, you can't really do it on yourself, but if someone has a nosebleed, what you can do is, move this way. What you're going to do is you're going to percuss at the base of their skull. So basically, what you call a karate chop, and you're going to want to cradle their chin with your other hand. You're going to send vibrations through to their nose, the front of their face, right here, by just chopping several times back here. Real simple. Now, another thing, if you have a really bad nosebleed, and these ones, if someone stomps on your face and your nose becomes an innie instead of an outie, then these 2 techniques are not going to be good enough. But when you have a little more serious nosebleed, then a real simple method is to take a cold spoon or even a cold cloth and put it at dew 14, or governing vessel 14, which is on the base of your neck. If you feel back here, your 7th cervical vertebrae at the base of your neck will be the prominent bone sticking out from your spine, and dew 14 is just beneath there at the base of your neck.
Using my hand.
Okay, now in that hanging revivals video, I explained the Jingwell points, and I'm going to go over them once more here because these points are used a lot, whether it's nipping them like this or bleeding. They're used a lot, and so instead of explaining them every time, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to introduce the Jingwo points here, and then again advise that you watch that other video. Now you have Jingwo points on your hands and on your feet, but we're only dealing with the hand points here. You have 6 points. You've got one here on your thumb. You've got one, and these are just beside the base or the bed of your fingernail. The pericardium point is the only one that's at the tip of your finger, and you've got one right here on your pinky finger. You've got one on each side. Now, my cupping and gua sha instructor used to call these the Jing Get Well points because the applications of Jingwo points are immense. I have no idea how many things are used for. Besides clearing wind from the meridians at the end of either a cupping or a gua sha session, the Jingwo points are also used to treat acute emergencies like fainting, coma, epilepsy, convulsions, cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest. They have a myriad uses. Now the points at the pinky fingers, heart 9 and small intestine 1, can be bitten to revive someone who's slipping out of consciousness. With the exception of the pericardium Jingwo point, again, the rest of them are all beside the nail beds, and the Sichuan points are at the very tips of each finger. So in a pinch, as I mentioned in the previous video, if you're not sure, then just bleed a couple of drops of blood from each side rather than worrying about exactly where these 6 points are. And you can use the lancet that diabetics use. You can use a sewing needle or whatever you have handy for that.